Let me start by saying a little bit about where we come from. Immokalee is one of the poorest communities that exist in Florida, where the tomato industry, which is the most important also in Florida, is based, with companies that have land all over the East Coast, producing tomatoes from Florida up until New York. In this industry, we have seen a lot of abuses going on. Some of the abuses are stagnant wages since 1978, getting 40 cents at that time per a bucket of 32 pounds of tomatoes, which means that in a normal day, a worker would have to pick 2.25 tons of tomatoes in order to make just the equivalent of the minimum wage, without any type of benefits nor protections. In the most extreme cases, confronting situations of slavery, where workers have been forced to work, in some cases at gunpoint, in every case under threats of death, under threats of physical violence for the workers and their families. We started to organize in 95. We did a general strike, 95, 97, and 99, with over 3,000 workers, to ask the industry to sit at the table with us, to change the conditions, to change the wages. One of the things that the industry said was, we can't raise the wages for farm workers because we are being squeezed. So we started looking into that issue. And we realized that on top of the industry, there was a big force putting pressure to get the benefit of our labor at the end of the day. 40 years back, there were no Walmarts, there were no McDonald's, there were no Burger Kings as they exist today. They started as a regional chains, and they started to grow to the point where they, with their demand, started to shape the industry. The agricultural industry was reshaped because of the retail industry influence on it. So we started to also read a little bit about what type of impact they have on the industry, and realize that, for example, in 1990, 41 cents of every dollar that you spent on a store would go to a farmer. But 10 years later, in 2000, it was only around 24 cents of a dollar. So that money was going to the top. The agricultural industry, in order to cut cost of production, was not going to turn to Monsanto and ask for cheaper fertilizers or pesticides, or turn to John Deere and say, you know what, I'm going to pay you the same for the machinery as I used to 30 years ago. But there's a place where they have cut cost of production always, and that's the worker. That's why we started our campaign, the campaign for fair food, trying to bring the big buyers of tomatoes to do the right thing, to sit at the table, and we asked for three main things: to pay a penny more per pound that will be passed on to the workers in the form of a bonus that would address the wages, to establish a code of conduct that would guarantee that the rights of the workers would be respected when you go to work, to eliminate the abuses, and to participate with willing companies from the tomato industry to create a different way of producing food. We started with Taco Bell. It took 4 years. It took a lot of people. 300 universities were working with us in solidarity, marching on the streets on a boycott. 4 years later, Taco Bell realized that it was time to do the right thing and sat at the table with us. A couple of years later, McDonald's did the same. And it was because of the consumers. The consumers stand with us and asked for the same thing. A little bit later came Burger King, Subway, Whole Foods, and that basically made the most important sector in terms of fast food standing behind these agreements, the agreements for fair food. Then we continue our campaign focusing on the food providers. And we ask Bon Appetit to do the same. We ask Compass Group. We ask Aramark and Sodexo. And finally, we were able to reach 9 agreements. With these 9 agreements, the tomato industry started to notice that change was underway. So after many years trying to escape responsibility, they knew that it was time to do the right thing also. So a couple of companies came to the table and negotiated the first agreements ever directly from the farmer, with the farmer and the farm workers. A little bit after, the entire tomato industry, represented by the FTG, which represents 90% of the tomato industry of the state of Florida, came to the table to sign an agreement to abide under the codes of conduct. We are developing right now a third-party mechanism, third-party entity that's going to be working directly with these farms to ensure that everything that's established on the code of conduct is being respected. We don't have all the buyers doing what they should. We don't have one sector that is crucial for this to succeed. We need to bring the big buyers of the supermarket industry, and we're focusing our efforts on bringing Trader Joe's to the table to sign an agreement with us. We are focusing also in bringing Kroger and bringing Publix in Florida. In general, the supermarket industry needs to do the right thing, because if there are farms that are not willing to comply with everything they said under these agreements, they have an escaping door with corporations like Walmart that could say, you know what? I don't care about the farm workers. I don't care about slavery. I don't care about sexual harassment. I continue to buy from you as long as you give me the lowest possible price. That cannot be the way business are done anymore. Because if we allow that to happen, we are sentencing communities like Immokalee and many others in this nation to toil under these conditions of exploitation. And none of this would mean anything. None of the words that I here to share would mean anything, because they would not change anything. So we're here to ask you to join us. We have concrete actions being planned against Trader Joe's. The 21st of this month, we're going to have an action in the headquarters in Monrovia. And we hope that any of you that can join us will come to march with us. During the celebration of the National Food Day, which is the 16th, right? The 24th. Okay, I have them wrong. The 14th is the international. The 24th is the international. The 14th is the national, right? Oh, reverse. Okay. Anyways, in this nation is going to be celebrated for the first time. And we're going to celebrate these days making actions against Trader Joe's in different parts of the country. Making actions against Kroger if there's no Trader Joe's in the area where you live. Actions against Publix. To let them know, let them understand that the change we are seeking is on their way. And it is unstoppable. And it is unstoppable not because we say it is, but because there's people like you taking actions to make sure that business as usual is not the form to produce the food anymore, because that's a shameful way of having labor in this country. It is time to do the right thing. My grandfather once told me that he felt really sad that he was not able to do enough in his life to make sure that we would not suffer the same abuses he suffered when he was working on the cotton fields in Texas. He was crying when he told me that. He died a few months after that. And I'm here to tell you that this is our time. We don't have to wait until we get old to look back and then regret that we didn't do the right thing. Our time is now. It's time to do the right thing. It's time for the supermarket industry to step up to the game and do it too. And together, we're going to make them responsible. Thank you.